Hey, AfterBuzzers, we've got some Summer and Kyle drama at the opening of the Society. Billy has also asked Victoria to be his wife, and we get this really emotional moment with Jack, so stay tuned for this week's Restless Wrap.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hey everybody, I'm Rachel Goodman here with another week of Restless Wrap. Before we get started, I just wanted to say happy Easter to everyone who celebrates, happy Passover to everybody else who celebrates, and if you are celebrating something else, happy celebration for whatever you are celebrating today. But thank you for being part of the show. We've got a lot of amazing people in the chat right now. We've got Klex Ambers, aka Tiffany, Ice Woman 1887, Amy Caraluzzo, we have Mary, we have Hubby Joe, Alyssa Brown Carlton, Maxwell Comics, Duelamin. Let's see, I think I hit everybody. And as people keep commenting, I will give more shout outs. Oh, Kenneth Clark is here. So let's go ahead and get started. We have a pretty jam-packed week to discuss. Sometimes on the show it feels like everything is happening, but then nothing at the same time, if that makes sense. We had a lot of like little things going on with the characters and not a lot of progress, but I feel like it's a week full of buildup for things that are going to come in the upcoming weeks. We know that there's going to be some kind of tribute to Neil next week. I wanted to mention that now because for anyone who hasn't been seeing all the episodes, that is we're gonna definitely touch on that. We didn't get the chance to really touch on everything that had happened with him, and so we will talk more about that next week after we watch the tribute and where we come back for the show. So for this week, the other thing I wanted to do was give a shout out to people who had given some comments on last week's episode of the show. We have Hubby Joe saying, another awesome show with Rachel in the chat. Look forward to seeing everyone next week. Well, next week is here. Nikisha Jones, great review, Rachel, and love the interview you did last week. I think Kyle is torn between the two of them, Summer and Lola. And then Rachel Charles, why when he slept with her niece for revenge? I'm not quite sure what that means there, but I know she's talking about Billy. We did get into some of that this week. We had some moments with Phyllis and Billy. I definitely said that in a very strange way, but we had some what felt like they were finally paying off what had happened between Summer and Billy. Hubby Joe, third time is the charm for the intro. Yes, I agree. Todd Beaton, Summer is so annoying. Klex Ambers, I like that each time was different too. Oh yeah, each intro, right? Kenneth Clark, this week is going to be emotional, guys. Yes, I am ready. I am going to have my tissues with me, and so will Hubby Joe. So yeah, this next week is going to be so sad. They showed the previews for it, and it's going to be a tearjerker. Duelamin, Phyllis losing it, Maxwell Comics Inc. Next week is going to be a lot of grieving. It's going to be so sad. Yeah. Todd Beaton, sick of Ashley coming and going. And then Duelamin says, Philly and Billis. LOL. Yes, well, I think it's because for a long time we literally just knew them as Philly. So, any case, let's start. Thank you. Let's start with everything going on with Kyle and Summer and then get into Phyllis and Billy a little since we're talking about that. So Kyle and Lola, we had a comment earlier about how, Todd Beaton says Summer's so annoying. And yes, I'm starting to get kind of annoyed with her again. It's very obvious that Kyle does love Lola, that he wants to be with Lola. But at the same time, we've seen some very tender moments between Kyle and Summer, and it just makes me think that as we've seen people commenting on in the chat, that obviously Kyle is torn between the two of them. He doesn't really know who he really loves, but I can't help but feel like every time he's with Lola, he wants to, like, that's like where his real, like, true heart desire is. But it's just from someone, like, I was watching the soap when Summer first came back on the scene, and before we had Lola, when it was just, Summer kind of, I don't want to say torturing Kyle, but she kind of was like being very flirty with him, and then trying to get him into bed, and then messing with him, and then pushing him away. Maybe it's because at that point Kyle thought, oh well, maybe he didn't realize that it was more of he wanted what he couldn't have with Summer. But I think their history runs deeper than that, especially because they dated once before and they were each other's like first loves, and I don't think that fades, and I think that Kyle's always going to feel for her what he felt before. But with Lola, it's like right now, obviously his feelings toward her are stronger, and every time he sees her, he just, he can't get away from her, and he's trying to make things work with her. What I think is a little bit, it's kind of like, it's sort of BS that he isn't picking, though. And by not picking, he's sort of choosing Summer since he's legally married to her. So Kyle, at the beginning of the week, we see him with Summer, we see him with Lola, and we kind of knew that he was trying to work things out with her. He went back to Summer. He told Summer he didn't love Lola, and just, obviously lied about it and tried to play it off like he didn't have any feelings for Lola anymore. Summer obviously read through that. And we remember from last week when Kyle was in bed with Summer, Summer was like, well, it's okay that you still love Lola. We're working past that. We're going to get through it. And the fact is, you said no to her. You turned her away when you could have slept with Lola. And Kyle, like, the plan with Lola was that he was going to go back to Summer, and he was going to tell Summer that he didn't want to be with her anymore and that he was breaking up with her to be with Lola. And he didn't do that. I don't know what it is with Kyle. I think he's a very skilled liar, and he lies so well. It's a pathological thing. He probably doesn't even realize what he wants. That's my theory at this point with him. And he's obviously still in love with Summer to some extent, even though it seems like he loves Lola more. And that's kind of where, like, when I see Lola and Kyle on screen together, I feel the chemistry a lot more than I feel it with Summer most of the time. And I think Summer kind of is crazy to think that she ever could have made this work, considering the circumstances and the manipulation. But at the same time, Kyle, I feel like, is the one most at fault because he suggested the marriage. And he also made a promise he would be with her for a year before he did anything else. And so he's just, like, the fact that he's breaking his promise like this by going around with Lola and talking about breaking it off with Summer, to me, that's the most irritating part. It's not even the circumstances. It's the fact that Kyle couldn't man up to a promise he made and stick it out and give Summer the year. Summer did go through surgery for this. And yeah, like, fine. So Summer should have been the good person and should have just done it anyway. But Kyle told her he would marry her. It wasn't even like Summer came up with that idea. It was Kyle saying, let's do this, and then I will definitely, marry you, and we'll go and we'll at least be together for a year. Now, Summer should have gotten some kind of paperwork drawn up. She even commented that she was being pretty dumb about it. But here we are this week, and it's the opening of the Society, which is Abby's restaurant. And obviously we know Lola is one of the chefs. And we opened up with Kyle lying to Summer, but not breaking up with her, which was the plan, but lying to her, saying he doesn't love Lola. Then we see this heart necklace, and we know, like, nothing's even said. We just know that it's meant for Lola, and Summer sees it. Kyle doesn't realize that Summer sees it. Summer sees this, thinks it's for her, which is kind of dumb. And as Summer and Kyle are walking out to go to the Society, Kyle didn't even want to go. He was trying to come up with an excuse not to. Summer says, no, we should go together, blah, blah, blah. They end up going there. The first thing Kyle does is, Summer bought this knife with Lola's initials carved into it, which is really sweet. But obviously a power move done to show that it was a gift from Kyle and Summer, and to kind of play it off, like to try and make it seem like, okay, well, we're definitely together and Lola can't be with Kyle. When they actually get there, the first thing Kyle does is he rushes off to see Lola. He privately gives her the necklace, and then Lola tucks it in. Now, Kyle, how stupid can you be? Like, at least settle your affairs with Summer first. I get this is a really messed up situation, but Kyle, like, come on, like, he is doing some really stupid things. You don't just start giving someone else gifts when you're still married to somebody else and you're trying to work out that situation. And if he was going to start giving Lola gifts like that, then he should have broken it off with Summer and been honest with her so that he could go through the divorce process and end up with Lola, which is what he sounds like he wants. But no, he's being pretty dumb right now and ended up giving a necklace to Lola. Somehow Lola probably sensed that Summer knew about this necklace, because when Summer showed up, she caught Kyle and Lola hugging. They tried to play it off like it was a friendly hug. I don't really even understand like what Kyle is even doing by being this careless. And if he's being this careless, then why can't he just tell Summer the truth? And then the other thing is that one of the thoughts that came up for him is, oh, I've got to get Summer to not want to be with me. Okay, well, if that's the case, then why don't you just like openly kiss Lola and make it very obvious you love her? Because Summer will, that might help your case of trying to get Summer to not want to be with you. But in any case, I digress. It turns out that somehow Lola must kind of guess or assume that Kyle knows, or that Summer knows about this necklace. Lola takes the necklace out of her shirt and lets it hang so that Summer can see it. So yeah, we've got Summer trying to do some power moves, but we've also got Lola doing her own power moves, and Lola saying that she's okay with the fact that they have to wait a little bit, that Kyle and Lola have to wait a little bit for this, for Kyle to go through and actually break up with Summer. I don't get this at all. For Lola to be like this, she seemed very self-righteous, a lot like Ray in a way, and she didn't put up with him doing little things. She didn't put up with him giving her a gift that she felt was too expensive. She's going to be okay with him divorcing somebody and then getting with her, and then on top of that, somebody that Kyle was sleeping with. It's one thing that he married her, but he specifically said, I'm not going to do anything in the bedroom. And then on their wedding night, they sleep together. And it's interesting because one of the things that Lola says in this moment before Summer interrupts them is, just don't sleep with her again. That's my condition. Don't sleep with her. And we all know that's not going to work, he's going to sleep with her next week. Like, we just know that that's the next place. Okay, so we've got a bunch of comments on this. Okay, let's start with Maxwell Comics. I think Kyle will always be in Summer's heart because Kyle was a grown man in his 20s. Summer was underage, 17, and she was doing the same thing she's doing now, manipulating him to get in bed with him. Alyssa Brown Carlton, they only really have stories for the women of the show when they're with a man. That's interesting. That is kind of, I have noticed there's a lot of relationship situations going on, but I just felt like that was the soapy thing. But maybe, it would be interesting to see, this is kind of like a side topic, but with Abby and Arturo, it would be interesting to see them not get back together so that Abby can run the restaurant as a single woman, but I think that they're going to put them back. So that kind of goes along with what you're saying about that. Ice Woman 1887, the storyline is making me hate both couples. Maxwell Comics, Summer, how are y'all gonna work through your husband being in love with a whole nother girl? That is a very valid point. And it's not even like it's not even like she's it's not like he's trying to get over Lola. It's not like it's gradually going away. It almost feels like he loves her just as deeply, if not more, than he did before. And they have their own special music when Lola and Kyle are together. And you don't really get the same kind of music with Summer and Kyle, obviously. But the sense that you get when Kyle and Lola are together is this music that puts you in this mood like, oh, these are the two people who should be together. And so I feel like the show is making a statement too, that obviously they want to put Kyle and Lola back, but they can't be together. We whole bunch of comments on this. Maxwell Comics, Summer is being petty, buying a knife like that's so petty, a knife that's symbolism for backstabbing. Literally that was shade on Summer's part. Yeah, I agree. And that's actually why, like, as soon as I saw this knife, so, okay, obviously getting someone a knife when they are a chef, yes, it makes sense because that's what they do. They will use the knife, but yeah, like obviously there was an undertone there, and that this knife was like, you know, it was not even a stab in the back. The knife is more like a stab direct to the heart. Like, yeah, I'm here and I'm not leaving. But I don't know. Hubby Joe, Summer was using the knife as a symbol that Lola and Kyle's love was dead. When she saw the chain around Lola's neck, she wanted to use the knife for something else. Yes, she did. And you know what? We don't know that that's not going to happen. There's a knife now. Maybe that knife is going to come back into the picture as something more than just a gift. Alan McLaurin, that stupid necklace thing is a joke. Also, Y&R does not know how to set up great love triangles. It's always lopsided to one side. That's everyone on the show. Amy Caroluzzo and Lola will get arrested. Klex Ambers, maybe he's being careless on purpose so that Summer puts the pieces together herself, and then he's off the hook of having to come clean. And that would be true. Like, I could see that being what Kyle's doing. I just think that if that is the case, he should have been like actually kissing her and kissing Lola, and just, it shouldn't have been just a hug that could have been taken as a hug. It should have been like, oh hey Summer, look what you walked into. Oh no, like it should have been very obvious, like, oh, I'm going over to Lola and I am like flirting with her. Kyle should have made it more than what he did, and not this subtle. I mean, not that it is that subtle to see them hugging, but yeah, he should have. That's what I don't get on the show is, in real life, if this situation, if anything close to this ever happened, and I was with somebody and they were doing like I don't even care like if it was someone that had been in their life a long time, but if this was happening to me and I saw the person I was with hugging somebody that was, well, not that any of us would do what Summer is doing, but my point is that Kyle shouldn't even be talking to Lola if he's trying to be with Summer, which obviously he's not, but he just shouldn't be, like, it doesn't make sense to me that in the soap in general, it's not just Kyle, it's like exes tend to stay friendly with each other, like too friendly, like, oh, like, you know, we're gonna, like, even just Nick and Sharon, not that I don't want them to be friendly because I want them to be together, but it's just very, there's like a line that seems to, like a very gray, faded line that seems to get crossed a lot when we have exes on the show that are still like really chummy and buddy and just, yeah, like, okay, that might be crossing a line, but it's just interesting to me that in any world, it's almost like it's almost like Summer is thinking, oh, well, I have to let Kyle and Lola be friends. No, like that shouldn't even be the case. Alan McLaurin, Summer versus Lola. Lola wins Kyle's heart. Maxwell Comics. The sad thing is so many men want to love Summer, but Summer never lets them in. She could be so much happier. I agree from what I've seen with her. And the other thing is, if we rewind back to when she first came back to Genoa City and we see the way that Kyle was with her, Kyle probably would have been good to her, and he probably would have loved her the right way, but she manipulated him and broke his trust so many times that he just couldn't handle it. He was like, yeah, I'm done. I can't be with her anymore. If she had been better, then Kyle would have been happy with her, and she would have been happy, and they could have had this nice relationship. Yeah, do I think Kyle is a liar? Yes, I do. But I think that when he cares about somebody, he's as good to them as he's going to be. And I think that in different circumstances, he wouldn't have betrayed, not that he betrayed Lola, he was trying to help her, but in different circumstances, I think that when he does care about somebody, he will be true to them, irregardless of what happens. But Summer just messed with him too many times. Maxwell Comics, can we talk about Summer's mom because she was doing way too much? Yeah, so we'll get to Phyllis. She's kind of the next, like, a good place to segue. Let me just see if there's any other Summer comments, and then we'll switch. Maxwell Comics, but to be honest, can Summer talk? She can't be mad at Lola because Summer had no respect. Kyle and Lola's relationship fling, whatever she could do to break them up. Novelty Expressions has some choice words for Summer. I hope no one feels bad for her. I don't feel bad for Summer. I just think that I'm more angry with Kyle because Summer probably would have donated the kidney anyway. Like, she probably would have done it as long as Kyle was there for her as a friend. He's the one who opened his big mouth and was like, yeah, I'll marry you. Let's do this. Like, he made that suggestion. He caused all this pain. He believed that Summer was only going to do it if he said that, but he doesn't know. That was his first resort, not his last resort. He could have said, I'll be a good friend to you. I'll be there to the end, and see if she had responded well to that. I don't think she's that, like, I don't think she's that messed up of a person that she wouldn't have done it. But of course she was going to capitalize on him suggesting, oh yeah, let's get married, blah, blah, blah. So, Alyssa Brown Carlton, as soon as Kyle was with Lola, Summer was doing everything she could to break them up. Yeah. And so, yeah, that is true. She didn't really want Kyle until Kyle had somebody. Maxwell Comics, no, she would not have. She wasn't going to give her the kidney. She's not good enough of a person. Novelty Expressions, why? No, she wouldn't have. So, okay, I mean, I see what you guys are saying. I think, Novelty Expression says, she said to him that she'll do it if something was there for her. Yeah, but she also, like, specifically said she wanted to talk to Kyle about it because she had concerns about the operation. And then they went to dinner, and the first thing that Kyle suggested was marriage. I just think that he could have tried other ways first. So I blame Kyle for the suggestion. Not that Summer is not at fault, because she's obviously manipulative and has so many issues. When this was first happening, I did want to see something in her change, and I don't know whether it did or didn't because it's kind of hard to say right now. I thought I noticed something a little bit different about her when they actually got married. That was a kinder, softer person. The same way that Kyle said to Jack that he noticed that she was different, that Summer was different than what she shows the world. So I just think that maybe that's what it all boils down to. In any case, I think it's time to kind of move on and talk about Phyllis. Maxwell Comics says Kyle was wrong too, Rachel's right, but like Summer isn't a victim. Yeah, I agree with you there, definitely. So let's talk about Phyllis, which kind of has to do with Summer, so it's sort of the same topic. They kind of bleed into each other. Phyllis, okay, so Summer found out, obviously, what Phyllis had done with the blackmail and trying to basically expose Kyle for this, for potentially booking, well, not potentially, for actually booking a room with Lola and almost sleeping with her. They don't really know what happened in the bedroom, obviously, but they had the pictures up to that point. And Summer confronts Phyllis, and at first Summer is upset because she thinks that Phyllis is doing this on purpose, that Phyllis is trying to get back at Summer for sleeping with Billy, and it finally came out again. That was something I was really hoping they were gonna pull back, because that's a really key piece of information. I didn't want it to just get dropped, and it couldn't just get dropped. There's so many little pieces here where it could potentially come back up, and they're talking about it again, so chances are it's gonna blow up somewhere. Right now, though, we did see a scene with Summer breaking down in front of Phyllis and just really letting out all this trauma. And yes, like, Summer has done some messed up things, but you can also tell it's because she has so much pain that's bubbling beneath the surface. And we saw a lot of that in the way that that it was portrayed, and just the way that Summer was talking to Phyllis. We saw like it could be a very tender moment between Summer and Phyllis, but I'm not sure that I quite believe Phyllis when she says that she didn't do any of this out of spite. I don't know, because Phyllis has her own agenda. Phyllis tends to do what will be best for Phyllis and not for anybody else, including her own daughter. If she had been thinking about Summer, she wouldn't have done what she did. And Phyllis made it sound like she was doing this blackmail specifically to help Summer to get her out of a bad marriage. If that was the case, she never would have gone to Jack, and she never would have blackmailed Jack. She would have taken the pictures and then gone to Summer and said, hey, look what he's doing. If that was really the motive behind it. But no, Phyllis is in it for herself, and she is trying to get blood. And we don't know how crazy this is going to get yet. We saw, not this week, but the week before, we saw Phyllis throw something at a mirror, break it, and look at herself in the reflection. And she's been saying multiple times about a new Phyllis, about changing, about they're not going to recognize me anymore. I feel like something really huge is going to happen with her. We know that there's going to be a casting change soon. I don't know if that's going to tie into it at all. I have my theories on that. But we do know that there's a lot going on with Phyllis, and a lot that we're not quite seeing yet. That's my prediction. And I don't know if I trust her, especially when it comes to Summer. It seems like Phyllis is going to be the one to draw this back out about what Billy, quote unquote, did to Summer. And Summer even said it isn't like Billy did this to me per se. Like Summer said she consented to it. She's obviously an adult, but Billy did use her specifically to get back at Phyllis. So, and we saw a conversation later. I want to touch on Billy and Victoria separately, but it was right in the middle of that proposal scene that Phyllis comes barging on the door, and she ends up getting her way and talks to Billy privately and brings up what happened with Summer and says, yeah, well, hey, like she kind of like throws it out there that if certain people found out, it would not be good for Billy. And so now like Phyllis, right after she tells Summer, oh, well, I never did this to hurt you. I'm not doing this out of spite or revenge. She goes to Billy and uses that and like throws it in his face, not even considering Summer's feelings. And she does it to get Billy to give her money. So Phyllis is just all about Phyllis, and that's that. And she's in a really bad place, and she's going to crawl her way out of it the way that she does best. Novelty expressions, the crazy Phyllis is back. I love it. Michelle Stafford is going to kill in those scenes. Todd Beaton, I hear Phyllis is going to break down. Go, then come with Michelle Stafford as Phyllis. Maxwell Comics Inc., I don't think that Phyllis, out of spite, because she went to Lola first and gave her the push to go after Lola, because she knows Summer is in a bad situation. And I'm sure that there's a part of Phyllis that wanted to figure this out and like have Summer see what Phyllis sees when it comes to Kyle and Lola, but I just don't think it was entirely for that reason. I think it was also to try to get some leverage with Jack. Alyssa Brown Carlton, Billy is going to piss her off, and Phyllis is going to blurt it out to Victoria. I think that too, and I think that Victoria, who right now she said she needs to think about the idea of marrying him. But I think that when Victoria is maybe about to consider it, like really, truly about to say yes, I think that's when she's going to find out and call the whole thing off. Mary, why don't they show anymore the entrance to Vicky's home? It's always cut off. It's weird. Interesting. Alyssa Brown, I noticed that too, Mary. Hubby Joe, Mary, I agree. That is weird. Yeah, I don't think we've seen it since the JT storyline. Maybe a little bit after that, but okay. Before we get into our next topic, I just wanted to take a moment to thank all of you for tuning in and for being the ESPN of TV talk. We could definitely use your help. We know that you're a fan of The Young and the Restless, and we appreciate you always watching the show. It means so much to me, especially having you guys comment. if you could go ahead and subscribe to our AfterBuzz channels. We've got so many different ones. We have drama, sci-fi, we've got everything that you could think of. And give us a 5-star rating. It would be so tremendously helpful and would help us continue to grow and add more of your favorite shows. So thank you for doing that. Let me know that you have done that, and I will go ahead and give you a shout out live on the air. But for now, thank you again for being such amazing fans and for always tuning in and being my amazing co-hosts. Let's get to our next topic. Before we do, if anyone would like to call in, the number to dial in is 424-354-8302. If you're listening live, it's April 21st at about 5:45 Pacific Standard Time. If you're listening live, the number is 424-354-8302. We might have time for a few calls before we wrap up here. Okay, so next topic. We spent a lot of time on Summer and Phyllis and Billy a little bit. We had some drama. Let's talk about Jack. We had so much with him. We only had a couple of scenes really, but it was enough where we really got to tell what was going on just with his mother. Like, it almost brought me to tears watching him with Dina, because he finally said, not to the Dina who, like in his lucid moments, but he had this dream where he spoke with a younger version of Dina, presumably Dina at the age when she abandoned him. And he specifically said those words. He told her, "Hey, you abandoned me." And we've got someone calling in. Thanks for calling in. Who do we have on the line?
It's Max.
Hey, Max. So we just switched over to talking about Jack and his mom. What did you think about that scene where he was dreaming?
I actually kind of cried. It was like really sad and emotional to see. I know they've been using that same actress for all the young Dina scenes. I don't know what her name is, but like she was really good. Jack was really good, and it was just a really good scene, from an acting perspective.
Yeah, and the line I loved too was when Jack said, "I have carried you with me in every business venture, every relationship, every aspect of my life," and this feeling of abandonment. It was so powerful.
Yeah, it was really, especially when he was talking about his relationship. Because like there was one storyline where he like had sex with Jill, and Jill was like his stepmom at the time. So I was like, "Ooh, Peter, you were having some issues there." That was really.
Yeah, and it's so interesting, like the psychological aspect of this, and just how sometimes, like, yeah, there are moments on Y&R and in soaps in general when we don't get to go that deep, but when they do things like this, the depth is incredible, and
that's why it's really good to have these same characters be able to go with them for so long, because like in other shows you just don't get to do that. You don't get to look back 40 years and see what happened to so and so.
Yeah.
Like that one event, like literally it made the way for so much story.
Yeah.
And affected so many characters.
Yeah, exactly. And it's incredible. Like you said too, the acting was just very on point, and he didn't necessarily get all the answers that he wanted either, but whether he was, obviously this was a dream, but even so, it's almost like he finally found closure in a way, even though he didn't actually get to say those things and have that full conversation. And I feel like too, he needed to talk to the Dina who left him, not the older woman.
Yeah. Not her, because like you said, she was gone.
Yeah.
And what I found real interesting is, I think it was before you started watching the show, but before you started watching the show, it was very frequent that whenever something big was going on in Jack's life, he would always hallucinate his dad. And his dad would always be talking to him about life or whatever. And it would only be with Jack. Tracy, nobody else would get the hallucination. It would only be Jack. So it's nice that they tie it around the fact that he does this sometimes, but do it with like Dina.
That's interesting. I did not know that. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and it's interesting how they carry that over to now. He's feeling Dina, but thank you, Max, for calling in.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Bye.
Yeah, have a great week. Okay, so we touched on Jack. Before we get to our law moment and predictions, let's touch on a couple more storylines pretty quickly here. We have, just to kind of touch on this, okay, so Victoria and Billy, I've already talked about this a little bit, but obviously Billy proposes. When he proposes, we get to see Victoria reflecting on some of her moments with Billy, and it was just pretty much everything she reflected on was a negative memory. And so we even see a memory of her saying, "You've burned me so many times, I'd be an idiot to let you burn me again." And now here she is. And yes, Billy's saying he's different. He does, as far as I've been watching the soap, there we go again. Soap, as long as I've been watching Y&R, I've only seen him with Phyllis. And then when he, obviously everything that blew up and now he's not with Phyllis, I've only known Billy as somebody who was faithful. I mean, other than the ending he had with Phyllis, where he ends up sleeping with Summer. Aside from that, he seemed pretty committed to Phyllis. And they actually had, as far as soaps go, as long as I've been watching Y&R, there's certain people, like, I feel like everyone, like, they pretty much have people breaking up all the time and no one really ever stays together. So, like, RIP to anyone you ship, like, it just like RIP in advance, because they probably won't be together for very long. But Phyllis, or I should say Philly, which used to be Philly anyway, they were together for a very long time. So I just feel like Billy, to me, if he was different before and he wasn't a faithful guy, I feel like now he is more of an adult and he has matured and he's ready to have a committed relationship. But what's going to blow up in his face is when Victoria finds out about Summer. And that's something, like, Summer, that's number one. But then two, the fact that he gave Phyllis money and he lied to Victoria about it. So two things, like, if there's anything that Billy should have learned from the blow up that happened with Phyllis not being honest with him and Nick not being honest with Sharon, it's that he shouldn't go into a marriage with lies like that. It was going to blow up in his face. He should know better, especially with Phyllis, who has a big mouth. He should know better. Like, I don't see Billy and Victoria ending up together, because I feel like that's going to come out and then it's going to doom the relationship. And Victoria, who's already feeling very cautious about this, she is not going to have that, number one. Number two, can we comment on the fact that it's ridiculous that Billy would propose this quickly? I get it. I get he wants to be with Victoria, but she's been pushing him away. They had one night together in Vegas like a couple weeks ago, and she slept with somebody else, and he obviously knew about it. I just feel like he should know it's too soon to propose to somebody, especially under these circumstances. Like, yes, if they had been dating a while and it felt like the right time, yes, of course, but this just feels like Billy is pushing and pushing and pushing, and it's not going to end well. So we have that. Alyssa Brown Carlton says he cheated on Victoria after his daughter died. It's going to be at the engagement party or something. Yeah, I agree with that. Novelty expressions, exactly. I'm glad the writers went a little different. We don't need Victor and Jack fighting every damn year. Plus, Ashley and Jack feud has been amazing acting-wise. They kill those scenes, all of the Abbotts. Yeah, I agree. Novelty expressions also said this was actually first. The Jack and Ashley feud is now. I'm tired of Jack and Victor feud. It's played and tired. Yeah. So one more comment here. Okay, yeah, everyone's just commenting on when it's going to happen, that Victoria is going to find out about Phyllis, the money, and Summer. And they're all saying, yeah, probably engagement party, and at a very inopportune moment. Mary, Phyllis recorded the conversation. I bet she did. I bet that she doesn't even want the money, that she's just using, she specifically recorded this conversation, like Mary said, and she's going to send it out just to, like, mess with everybody. That's probably what her end game is. Before we get to our law moment, just to touch on one more segment real fast. We saw some things with Kane and Lily. Lily's out of jail now. Lily is back, but she's not even going to spend the night. I don't even know why she showed up exactly. If she mentioned it, I missed it. She just, I guess, came back to get our clothes and then go back to the jail, where she is taking a full-time job. But not only that, she decided that she was talking to the kids, and they're going to go to a state college near the jail. So not only is Lily leaving, but now she's talking about Kane's kids leaving too. I mean, their children, not just Kane's, but she's talking about everybody leaving and going out, near the jail, which to me is kind of, I do feel bad for Kane a little bit. But once again, we hear him singing the same song about how he's going to be different, blah, 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 and how he wants to, he actually put in his notice at work, and now he's going to try working to help people instead and just try a different way. And at the end of the day, Lily was like, okay, that's great that you're doing this, but you're going to have to do it without me. Great, like, live a different life. You should, but it's not going to be one where I'm in it. And I don't know what they're going to do with that. I mean, obviously, Lily, we're not going to see her as often because the actress is she elected to be under recurring status and not, she's not going to be on as much. But I'm curious how they're going to handle this. Since we are on the topic of Lily and Kane, now is the perfect time to segue to our law moment. And the reason I say this, I've been waiting all week to get to this first, even though we're doing it next to last, because the law moment for me happened pretty much, it was literally the first scene they showed of the week on Monday. It was with Kane talking to Tracy about Lily, and he was begging Tracy to help him save his marriage. And I'm listening to this, and Kane goes, "You're like the glue of this family. This makes you a great writer." And it's like, oh my God. If you didn't know, by the way, Tracy's a great writer. And that part, she's a writer. She's writing a manuscript. Oh, guess what? She's writing another manuscript. If you didn't know, now you know, because it's like every time Tracy's in the room, they have to point out she's a writer. But that amused me. But what made me laugh, and the reason why this moment is the number one law moment this week for me, is because Tracy, who's saying she can't do this, Kane suddenly decides to say, "Can you pretend I'm one of the characters in your novel?" Okay. So that made me laugh so loud that I had to pause the scene because I wasn't able to hear what was happening. I was like, oh my God, like he says he's made, like the whole conversation has been Kane talking about how she's a writer. Why? Like, okay, I am a writer too. My friends don't say that to me. Like, hey, can't you pretend I'm one of your characters? No, like that doesn't, just because you're a writer doesn't mean that you're going to pretend that a real life situation is part of your book. But as we know, Tracy ends up using it to her advantage, and she's writing in an Aussie character who fits Kane's description to a T. And it's all about him getting his marriage back. My law number 2 was also Tracy. So it was Tracy typing up her manuscript when she was basing the character off of Kane. The funny part, it wasn't even that she was basing it off of Kane. It was the fact that we hear her writing this in her head. She's not actually saying it. She's like thinking it and typing it. And the facial reactions as she's writing this masterpiece, she kept nodding her head, looking like Pai Mei from Kill Bill, the way that he would nod his head. And then the aha facial reactions that she kept giving. It was just, okay, for all of you people who write out there, when you're writing, do you sit and nod your head as you're writing a manuscript? Because I can tell you that in my experience, I don't do that. And it didn't feel like the right thing at all. Like, you don't just go, oh yes. And it wasn't like I get like a subtle nod, but her nod was like very pronounced. Like, oh yes, I'm so proud of myself. Look at these words flowing. It did not make sense to me. We have some lol moments in the chat, so I'm going to read them. Let's see. Hubby Joe, true. Rachel was laughing hard, as was I. Okay, so I have confirmation here. Maxwell Comics, for me, the lol moment is when Kane said he could fix his marriage after cheating again. Yeah, that actually was hilarious. He's cheated so many times. Maxwell Comics Inc. Also, when Summer said they could work through her husband being in love and pursuing another woman. Maxwell Comics, y'all leave poor Tracy alone. Okay, yeah. So Tracy, there's nothing wrong with her as a character. I like her character. The writing references. the writing references. So on that note, let's get to our predictions before we wrap up.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
So, real quick, I think that Kyle is going to end up cheating on Summer, which he already has. I think he's going to end up just going back and forth between the two women. I think that next week with the tribute, Lily might stick around with Kane for a little bit, but they're still going to divorce. And then the last thing is, I think that we're going to end up seeing Devon and Elena get together, which is something we didn't really get to touch on this week. But thank you all for tuning in to this week's Restless Wrap. I'm Rachel Goodman. You can find me on Instagram or Twitter at Rach Goodman, or on Instagram at Rachel Radner Author. We also have a Restless Wrap Facebook page if you want to go over there. I always post the link to the show. Any comments you have, I will read live on the air. But if you go over to Facebook at Restless Wrap, we are always open to discussion on there, and we can talk about it live on the air. Have a wonderful week, and we will see you next Sunday.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.